On Leo's birthday, his first love, Chloe, returned from overseas. They threw a grand celebration behind my back, and that was when I found out they were about to get engaged. I, his actual girlfriend, was dragged out and made the punchline of the night. His friends laughed as they reminded him of how it all began. "It was just a stupid game back then," one of them said, his voice loud enough for the whole room to hear. "You lost, so you had to confess to the next girl who walked by. Who would have thought it would drag on this long?" Another friend chimed in, looking at Leo. "You're really getting engaged to Chloe now. Good thing Maya never threw a fit, cried, or threatened you to force a marriage." Leo blew out a slow, deliberate ring of smoke, his expression calm and indifferent. "Maya's as obedient as a dog," he said, the words cutting through the haze and straight into me. "She won't push for marriage. She's not going anywhere." In that moment, the reality of the last 8 years settled over me with a crushing weight. I wasn't his partner, I was his backup plan, a placeholder in a game I never knew I was playing. To say it didn't hurt would be a lie. My hands trembled as I held the tray of drinks I was carrying, my eyes burning as I stared straight at the man sitting at the center of all the attention. The laughter in the private room came in waves, washing over me again and again, and the joke was me, the girlfriend serving drinks like a waitress. Alex, Leo's best friend since childhood, leaned on his hand and asked casually, "Leo, you really never thought about giving her a real title?" "It was just for fun," Leo replied, blowing out another smoke ring. "Who would take it seriously? If she did, then she clearly doesn't know her place. That's her own bad luck." He took a long drink, his voice tinged with intoxication, as he laid his feelings bare without a shred of hesitation. "The only person I've ever loved is Chloe. She's the one I truly care about. I just want to marry her." My grip on the tray tightened, my chest filled with a sour ache, like being pricked over and over by 1,000 tiny needles. Chloe, glowing under everyone's adoring gaze, let out a soft, confident laugh. She looked just as she had 8 years ago when Leo had pursued her so publicly and intensely, radiant and dazzling. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her hard on the cheek, staking his claim for everyone to see. The room roared with excitement. Chloe quickly turned and pecked his lips, but he grabbed her by the back of her neck and kissed her deeper, more aggressively, locking her in place. That was a kind of affection I had never once experienced from him. What I did have, constantly, was their ridicule and indifference. Every time he brought me to these events, I would just sit quietly in a corner, occasionally catching a few contemptuous glances. That day, I couldn't finish my shift. I asked a coworker to cover for me and went straight to the manager to hand in my resignation. He looked surprised, but didn't ask why. He just told me this month's pay would be transferred to my account. I was thankful they weren't going to dock my salary. After crunching the numbers in my head, I realized I finally had enough to pay back the money I owed Leo. After 8 years, I was finally waking up from this long, painful dream. It wasn't until I stepped outside into the cold night air that I noticed my hand was bleeding from gripping the tray too hard. Then, I suddenly remembered the day we first got together. It had snowed then, too. At a university mixer, everyone had been watching as Leo walked toward me, holding a huge bouquet of roses, his tone seemingly sincere. "I like you," he'd said. "Will you be my girlfriend?" I panicked, my face burning. I wanted to say no, but the words stuck in my throat. I couldn't speak, so he just shoved the roses into my arms and sat down beside me. He quickly figured out that every time he called me girlfriend, my ears would turn red, so he leaned into it, calling me that over and over again. "Girlfriend, what do you want to eat? Girlfriend, what do you want to drink? Girlfriend, what do you like?" By the time we left, it was snowing heavily. He wrapped his scarf around my neck with such care, his deep, affectionate eyes filled with what I thought was tenderness. "Girlfriend, I can't let you catch a cold." It turns out our entire relationship had started as a joke, just a game he lost. I was the last to know, and now all I felt was a cold that went deep into my bones. He kept calling me girlfriend because he probably didn't even remember my name. What he didn't know was that this was the 11th year I had loved him. That night, when Leo came home, he was holding a giant bouquet of roses and a necklace box. He looked so happy as he put the necklace around my neck himself. I saw it in the jewelry store today and knew right away it was perfect for you, honey, Leo said, smoothing down my hair. Unlike the joy I used to feel at his gifts, this time my thoughts ran elsewhere. Did he go to the jewelry store because of his engagement to Chloe? Did he need to buy gold for that too? When he bought this necklace, did he suddenly remember the fool he kept beside him and feel a momentary hint of guilt? I suddenly remembered the first time he gave me a necklace. It cost a fortune, and when I heard the price, I jumped up and quickly took it off, placing it back in his palm. I can't accept this, it's too expensive. But Leo pressed me down into the chair and put it back around my neck with a bright smile. My Maya deserves the very best in the world, he'd said. No matter how expensive it is, you're worth it. This time I turned my hand to hold his and looked up. Staring into his eyes, my reflection mirrored in his dark pupils, which were full of an unusual tenderness. Leo, is there something you want to tell me? He stiffened slightly, and for a moment I could sense his unease. But then he leaned down and gently kissed my forehead. Of course, I love you the most. The next second, his phone rang loudly. Leo hesitated, frowned, and silenced the call. It rang again right away. He hung up once more annoyed this time. The third time, he faltered. Go ahead and answer it, I said, fingering the necklace. What if it's important? He glanced at me quickly, then picked up. He walked away fast, but not fast enough. I still heard the familiar, feminine voice of Chloe on the other end. When he came back, his brows were tightly furrowed, but his expression toward me was still the same open tenderness. My parents want to send me on a business trip, he said. Where to? I asked, my voice calm, though my chest throbbed with a deep, stabbing pain. Tokyo, he answered. Everyone thought I met Leo for the first time in college, but that wasn't true. I first saw him back in 10th grade. At that time, I wore thick, black-rimmed glasses and had heavy bangs that covered my forehead. My face was full of acne, and I blended into the crowd. My mom sold vegetables at the market, and sometimes her clothes carried the smell of fish, a scent that would cling to me, too. Teenage boys loved to mock that sort of thing. They'd call me names, ugly girl, eel girl. Even though I started checking my clothes obsessively every day, terrified of any lingering scent, it didn't stop the teasing. One day, Leo snapped. Day after day, all you guys do is bark like dogs. If you can't speak like humans, shut your mouths. You're real quick to mock others, but who the hell here is better than anyone else? Say one more word and you're going against me. If you've got a problem, fight me. Those casual, offhand words lit up my entire world. No one dared to bully me after that. I made it through high school peacefully, quietly watching Leo and Chloe's passionate 3-year relationship unfold. In our final year, I finally took off my glasses, cut my bangs, and my acne cleared up. I mustered all my courage, held up my phone, and asked Leo for a photo together. He hesitated, glancing toward the distance. That's when I noticed Chloe standing beneath a tree in a white dress, her eyes red from crying. I wanted to back out of the photo and remind him, your girlfriend's crying. But he suddenly threw his arm over my shoulder, smiled, and snapped the picture. That was the first time I became a tool for their petty fight, and the first time I realized they had broken up. When I told my dad I was applying to a college all the way in a different city, he was furious. His face turned red as he asked me why after I'd promised him I'd stay local. I pulled out our photo from my wallet and showed him the little red heart I had drawn on the back. It's our fault, he said. Your mom and I spoiled you too much. Kids like him from rich families, they'll never truly love someone like you. My mom tried to make me apologize, to bow my head and admit I was wrong, but I wiped away my tears and refused. That day, my father hit me for the first time in my life, and I swore to myself I'd keep going, even if it meant crashing headfirst into a wall. I wouldn't turn back. Now that I had truly hit rock bottom, all I felt was a deep, aching pain in both my body and soul. Sure, we had sweet moments too. Plenty of them, in fact. But now, when I think about them, they all feel like scenes from a play. He used to wear the ugly, lumpy scarf I gave him, the one I knitted so awkwardly when I was just learning how. He'd wear it proudly around his neck and boast to his friends, "My girlfriend made this. Jealous?" He'd post pictures of the lopsided strawberry cake I baked, the entire table of mismatched dishes I cooked, and captioned them on his feed. My girl cooked. I eat well. He'd wear a childish black elastic hair tie on his wrist, just like mine, because he said it matched. We'd take long walks through campus, fingers laced together. When someone asked for his contact information, he'd wrap his arm around me tight and declare his claim. His life was marked all over with traces of me. Leo had money. He lacked for nothing. All I had to offer was my whole heart, every bit of love I could possibly give and without holding anything back. In my sophomore year, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. A kind, gentle old man, his health deteriorated rapidly. Before we knew it, he was confined to a hospital bed. My mom and I were desperate. We were just regular people, and like the rest of our relatives, there was no way we could come up with the enormous medical bills. I borrowed from everyone I could think of, and soon we were buried in debt. But we were still far from enough. That night, it was pouring rain. Soaked to the bone, I found Leo in a pool hall. I stammered, trying to explain why I had come. Some guy nearby let out a sharp whistle and sneered. "Here for money, huh? You know, people don't just lend money out of pity. How do we know you're not just faking it to squeeze cash out of Leo? Took you no time to show your true colors." I panicked, tears falling freely, and pulled out my nearly dead phone, trying to find the diagnosis report. Then I realized what they were suggesting. "How about you kneel for us?" one of them said. "One kneel, $1,000. How much you get depends on you. If you don't dare, doesn't that mean the whole illness thing is fake?" In the face of death, money becomes just paper. Sure, I was from a poor family, but that didn't mean I was stupid. To them, I had gotten close to Leo for one reason: money. To them, I was just a nobody, not worthy of standing beside someone like him, who came from so much wealth. My eyes red with shame and desperation, I almost knelt. But Leo grabbed me and pulled me up, his face cold, his expression dark with anger. He shoved a card into my hand and draped his coat over my shoulders. "If that's not enough, tell me. I'll have someone drive you back." At the time, I thought he truly didn't care about the class divide between us. At the time, I really believed he loved me. That night, after Leo finished his shower, he saw me sitting on the bed with my head down, wiping my tears. He immediately panicked and rushed over, gently brushing my cheeks with his thumb. "Why are you crying? Who upset you? Are you feeling sick? I'll take you to the hospital right now." His voice trembled with worry, like he was terrified I might disappear at any second. In that moment, he was all anxious care, as if the love we had shared these past 8 years had never faded, as if we were still deeply in love. I didn't understand how he could still act so deeply in love while his heart clearly still held Chloe. How could he say things like, "Maya's like an obedient dog who won't leave me with no guilt at all"? Was it just because he knew I loved him too much to ever walk away? My whole body felt cold, my breath caught in my throat. I gripped the collar of his pajama shirt tightly. Leo immediately started rubbing my back, trying to help me breathe. Seeing me cry so hard I couldn't even speak, he finally realized something was seriously wrong. He asked carefully, "Is it because I'm going on this trip? Are you upset?" I didn't answer. Panicking, he whipped out his phone. "I'll call and cancel right now, honey, don't cry." "I won't go. I'll stay here with you." I pressed down on his hand, hugged him, and sobbed. "It's not that. It's not because you're going away on a trip. It's because for all these years, no matter what I did, I couldn't warm your heart. I've been waiting for you to turn back, to sincerely love me. I've been waiting for you to like me the way you used to like Chloe. But it's been 8 years, and I'm still just the backup in this game." That night, I cried in his arms, pouring out everything I had held in for so long. Leo, flustered and overwhelmed, just held me tighter, a sharp ache in his chest, telling him that something was slipping from his grasp. The next morning, I still saw him off for his trip. At the front door, he hugged me and gave me a gentle kiss. "When I get back, I'll bring you a gift. Just send me a message if there's something you want, okay? And no crying while I'm away. Don't let your eyes get all puffy. If you miss me, just call me." His sweet, doting words didn't reach me. I only nodded vaguely, distracted, and watched him get into the car. Leo, there is no after for us. I won't be waiting for you to come back. On the third day after Leo left, I cleared everything of mine out of his place. I watched our photos fall one by one into a small metal bin, the flames dancing warmly on my face, but my chest ached unbearably. Those old love letters I once begged him to write, now yellowed with age, turned to ash. Suddenly, I thought of Chloe again, the woman who once lived at the very center of Leo's heart. The brilliant daughter of a prestigious family, top of her class, fluent in 5 languages. She could dance, she could play the piano. Just by standing there, she could draw every eye in the room. Leo had written her countless love letters, all overflowing with affection. Even when his love was met with cold indifference, he still followed her day after day, rain or shine, never turning back. As I stood up from his study desk, I accidentally knocked over one of Leo's treasured wooden boxes, something he never allowed me to touch. If I ever did, he'd get angry. The scattered photos that spilled out stabbed at my heart. I bent down with shaking hands and picked them up one by one. Every single photo was of the two of them, Leo and Chloe. Dates were written carefully on the back of each one. Leo looked so genuinely happy in them. A thick stack of boarding passes lay nearby, wordless records of their long-distance yearning. No wonder he went abroad every year without fail. Even when we had plans during those days, he never hesitated to cancel them. I used to tease him, saying some beauty overseas must have stolen his heart. Now I knew it wasn't a joke. It was real. It must have been tough for him, rushing back after seeing Chloe just to meet me, as if nothing had happened. Then I remembered I'd once used a burner account to add Chloe on social media. Almost without thinking, I curled up on the sofa and opened her latest post. The location was tagged in New York. In the photo, she and Leo were walking hand in hand. The caption read, "With him." I knew it was Leo because the wristwatch on the man's arm was the one I gave him for his birthday. A plain, $2,000 watch that had meant the world to me. I opened Leo's social media feed and scrolled endlessly. Almost everything about me had disappeared, probably set to be visible only to me. He never mentioned Chloe by name, but every word, every post was about her. That morning, I spent hours torturing myself, scrolling through their posts, crying until I could barely breathe. Then, in the afternoon, I got an invitation from his mom. At the cafe, she arrived dressed in elegant, expensive clothes. After giving me a long, deliberate once-over, she took a sip of her coffee. "How much would it take for you to leave my son?" she asked, straight to the point. "You two are from different worlds. You won't be happy together." I lowered my eyes to the bank card she pushed toward me. If this had happened years ago, I would have felt humiliated. I would have screamed that love could conquer all. But I wasn't 17 anymore. I was 27. I let out a soft laugh and pushed the card back toward her. Luckily, before I came, I'd gathered the courage I needed. I pulled out my own card from my bag and slid it across the table. "Ma'am, this is the money Leo lent me when my dad was sick. I've included the interest. Please help me return it to him. I know he's getting engaged. Please wish him a happy marriage for me." Leo's mom looked at me in silence for a long moment, then sighed deeply and took my card. That night, as if we were still connected by some invisible thread, Leo called me. He went on and on, chatting about the little frustrations of his work, complaining about his unreasonable boss. I stood by the window, listening quietly as snow began to fall outside. On impulse, I asked, "Is the snow heavy in New York?" Leo didn't catch on. He laughed. "Yeah, it's coming down pretty hard. What about where you are?" "I'm not in Jingxi," I said, my heart beating slower now, heavier. My voice was steady, calm. I let out a soft laugh. "Aren't you supposed to be in Tokyo?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line, only the sound of his heavy breathing remaining. Leo suddenly sounded anxious. "No, Maya, listen to me. Let's break up," I said, cutting him off. "Leo," I added quietly, "I don't love you anymore." I hung up before he could say another word. Right after, video call requests started popping up one after another, flooding my screen. My message inbox exploded. "What's with the attitude? What did I do wrong this time? Pick up. Don't block me." I replied with a single sentence: "Let's end things peacefully." Then I deleted and blocked his number without a second of hesitation. It was only by doing that, by being the one to finally end it, that I felt like I had finally won something in this game I was always meant to lose. That night, I had a rare, gentle dream. In it, I got everything I ever wanted. I walked down the aisle in a pure white wedding dress, holding onto my father's arm, heading toward Leo. He stood at the altar in a black tuxedo, dark and striking. My heartbeat pounded like drums in my chest as I told myself I was finally marrying the boy I had dreamed of since I was 16. My dad's eyes were red as he placed my hand into Leo's. "Take good care of her," he said. "I will," Leo promised. "I'll never let her down in this lifetime." When I woke up, my pillow was soaked with tears. The next day, I was getting ready to go downstairs and grab some breakfast, but as soon as I opened the door, I saw a familiar figure. Leo was sitting on the floor outside my apartment, smoking. The ground around him was littered with cigarette butts. He never smoked unless he was deeply troubled. Shouldn't he be happy? He had finally shaken me off. He could marry the woman he really loved. When he saw me open the door, he turned and shoved a bag with a warm breakfast into my arms, pushing me back inside with an overwhelming force. "Why did you break up with me?" he asked, his eyes bloodshot with dark rings beneath them. He looked utterly exhausted. I looked him straight in the eyes. "Because I don't love you anymore." For the first time, Leo seemed genuinely stunned. The sweet, obedient girl he used to know was now standing before him like a wild cat baring her claws. He told me he'd waited at the airport all night, even paid extra to buy someone else's ticket just so he could rush back. Now he didn't want to hear any of it. Suddenly, Leo grabbed my chin, forced me still, and bit my lip hard. Only when it started to bleed did he finally let go. He licked the blood off the corner of his mouth and scoffed. "Don't love me?" he said, and shoved me down onto the sofa, his hand sliding under my shirt. I instinctively tried to push him away, but he wouldn't budge. I kicked and thrashed, but he held me firm. "You say you don't love me, but your body is saying something else," he sneered. He was humiliating me, his cold fingers sliding across my skin. "Get off me, Leo!" I shouted, tears streaming down my face, stinging with pain and shame. That moment seemed to jolt him back to reality. He sprang off me as if he'd been burned. "I'm sorry, Maya. I don't love you anymore," I said again, slowly and clearly. "You don't get to treat me like this just because I used to love you." It sounded ridiculous even to my own ears, weak and pathetic. Because of course he could treat me this way. He never loved me. For 11 years, I had chased after him, loved him in silence, handed him my heart wrapped in thorns. No matter how much it hurt, I had convinced myself it was worth it. This loud, messy, one-sided love had always been mine alone. Leo took a step back, his voice softened. "Honey, don't do this to me. It's not fair." He reached for a cigarette but then dropped it, letting it fall to the floor. Truthfully, I never expected that when I finally let go and walked away, he would come running after me without hesitation. Seeing me remain still, not reacting, he let out a breath of laughter laced with bitterness. He crushed the cigarette under his foot. "Maya, why is it that when you want to be with me, we're together, but the moment you don't, you just break up? You're the one getting engaged, aren't you?" I stared directly at him. Because I was obedient? Because I didn't push for marriage? Because I loved you so much I lost myself? So what? Does that mean I'll never leave you? That I'm supposed to be okay with being your second choice? To throw away my dignity and be your mistress? Leo froze, his hand hovering in midair as if he wanted to touch me but pulled back at the last second. My voice came out dry and raw. "Who was it? Which loudmouth couldn't keep their mouth shut in front of you?" Leo, flustered and angry, lunged forward to grab my hand. "Listen to me." I stood where I was, willing to hear his explanation, but all he could do was stammer. Nothing came out that made any real sense, because the truth was the engagement was real. "I've always known," I said with a bitter smile. "I've always known. Well, that's why it's always hurt so much." Leo pressed his lips together, then grabbed my arm again. "I don't have to marry her," he said. "We're just like friends now." Oh, so friends kiss like that now? I snapped. So you won't marry her, but you'll marry me. The loyal little dog? Then what? Still keep your first love warm on the side? I didn't even know when it happened, when Leo had become so utterly rotten. He stared at me intensely, but my eyes had shifted to his ring finger. He was wearing a simple band engraved with initials I didn't recognize. I had begged him so many times to get matching rings, but he always said, "It's not the right time." Now, seeing me staring at it, he quickly slipped it off. This, my mom gave it to me. I just wore it out of habit. It's not what you think. I was drunk. I said dumb things I didn't mean. I never saw you that way. I just thought you were too good, too obedient. I only feel friendly toward Chloe now. He started rambling. Our families have been close for generations. We dated once, that's all. That's why they wanted the engagement. Just wait for me a little longer, okay? I'll take care of everything. I want to marry you. He always said that, torn between Chloe and me. But if it was just a friendship with her, then from the very start, he could have broken off the engagement for me. He could have introduced me to his mother as his serious girlfriend, but he didn't because he was weak and selfish. Does loving me make you feel ashamed? I asked. For once, Leo looked down, avoiding my gaze. Just then, his phone rang. It was Chloe. Leo, why aren't you at the pool hall? Her voice came through the speaker, clear as day. There are a few guys bothering me. Leo, where are you? Her voice trembled like she was about to cry. Without thinking, Leo let go of my hand. While comforting Chloe on the phone, he was already texting his friends for help. Just before leaving, he turned back to me. Don't be mad. I'll explain everything when I get back. My hands were shaking. You're really going? Without turning around, he said, I'll be back as soon as I handle it. But we didn't have a next time anymore. Once again, Leo had left me behind for Chloe. As the new year approached, I took some time off and went home early. After my mom finished lighting incense for my dad, she looked over at me while arranging offerings on the altar. You broke up, didn't you? These past few days, I kept dreaming about your dad. He kept saying our sweet little Maya was getting bullied. I mumbled a faint response while stuffing potato chips into my mouth. She came over and held my hand, sighing. Marriage, liking someone, and being a good match aren't the same thing, she told me. She said she hadn't married my dad because she loved him, but because my grandpa had said they were a good fit. But in all those years, my dad had loved her and only her. In everything, big or small, he gave in to her. So if it's not right, my mom said gently, let it go. Our Maya is a good girl. You deserve to be loved. I hugged her tightly, hiding my tears in her shoulder. With a little laugh, I teased, well then, if I can't find the right person, I won't marry anyone. I'll just stay here with you forever. You're all I've got. She held me close and said softly, that's my girl. After lying around at home for a few days, I finally saw things clearly. I'm not Cinderella. One party won't bring me a prince. If Chloe could summon him with the curl of her finger, and if my 11 years of love couldn't make him turn around, if not even once in all that time he could say he truly loved me, then I didn't want him anymore. Even trash has more worth than love like that. Reality isn't as beautiful as fairy tales. From now on, everything I want in life, I'll have to fight for it myself. No matter how Leo tried to reach out to me after that, I never responded. He ended up completely drunk at a bar, a mess. With no other option, Alex called me. Maya, he's been downing drinks like water. He's completely out of it. You know he already has stomach issues, right? He's just being stubborn. He still cares about you. He just won't say it. Can you please come get him? No, I replied firmly. A proper ex should act like they're dead. No contact, no interference. Alex paused for a second. Is your phone on speaker? No, I said. But let me put it on now. Leo, I'm talking to you. Your body is your own. Even if you drink yourself to death, it has nothing to do with me. Stop bothering me. I don't love you anymore, and I have no interest in getting back together. I hung up cleanly. There was a long silence in the private room where he was. Then I heard Leo's frustrated voice yell, Maya loved me so much, she's bound to come crawling back in a few days. This time, Alex didn't respond. Before the new year, there was a rare high school reunion. Leo received a warm invitation and, out of politeness, agreed to go. When he sat down, he noticed one seat was still empty. The class representative said, "Well, well, look who finally showed up. Our Mr. Popular himself. You and Maya never used to come to these." Leo tried to recall what I looked like in high school, but all he could see was a blur. "Wait, was she even in our class?" he asked uncertainly. "Of course," someone replied. "Didn't you once stand up for her back then?" Someone else chimed in. "Back in the day, all Maya cared about was school and Leo. Honestly, I thought she had a crush on you. I guess I was right since you two ended up together." Leo's mind went completely blank. I had been 16 that year. I hadn't loved him for 8 years. It had been 11 years of my youth. On New Year's Day, fireworks burst through the night sky. As I looked out the window, I unexpectedly spotted a familiar figure downstairs. Leo was standing there, holding a massive bouquet of roses. When he saw me, he waved excitedly. He was wearing the same scarf I had knit for him all those years ago. When I came downstairs, he rushed toward me and pulled me into a tight hug. "I finally found you," he said, his voice full of grievance. He held me tighter and tighter, like he was afraid I'd disappear again. Only when I started to struggle for breath did he finally let go. Without even looking at me, he fumbled in his coat pocket and pulled out a red velvet box. Inside was a diamond the size of a pigeon's egg. "I'm not ashamed to love you," he stammered. "I truly want to marry you." It was a sentence I had waited 11 years to hear. Tears welled up in my eyes. Some emotions, buried for too long, eventually burst out. I laughed at myself and said, "Do you see it now?" "See what?" he asked. "The gap between us," I said. "You live in a villa, you drive a luxury car. I work 9 to 5, taking the subway to save money. For you, buying a diamond ring is nothing. For me, saving up just to get you a birthday gift that suits you takes forever. We're not the same. We don't belong in the same world. We don't match." "I don't need you to buy me anything," he argued quickly. I just want you by my side." The day I found out my dad was terminally ill, my mom broke down crying, clutching me. But I couldn't cry. I had to be the backbone of the family. I was just a sophomore then. My hair fell out in clumps from the stress. I couldn't sleep. All I wanted was to hug you and cry, but you had no idea. You were off racing cars with your friends, getting drunk in some bar. I was freezing, shaking all over. Everything was a blur. I had nowhere left to turn. Leo, I searched for you the whole day in the pouring rain. You didn't reply to my messages. Your friends ran me in circles. I walked until my feet bled, covered in blisters. And in the end, they told me where you were, at the pool hall, but only if I knelt and begged. You caught me when I nearly fell. Back then, I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd loved me, even if only briefly. But then, as I reached into your coat pocket to get your keys, my hand brushed against your phone. I picked it up, intending to return it. But at the door, I overheard everything. All those things you said, buried memories you let slip in my absence. Saying it all out loud now, it lifted a little weight from my chest. My voice choked, then broke into sobs. I coughed through my tears. In my mind, I saw Leo's face again, unbothered, careless, as he blew out a smoke ring, his voice cold and cruel. "Maya? She's an old, clingy girl, pathetic." I pretended I hadn't heard it, but deep down, I swore to myself I would pay him back every cent. Still, we kept dating for 8 years. I thought I had finally earned a place in his heart, but eyes don't lie. Every time news of Chloe came up, he'd leave me behind without a second thought. My mom used to ask me, subtly but consistently, "Is it because we borrowed money from him? Do his family hate us for being poor?" She wondered if our background made them look down on me, if our status was too shameful for him to mention. For 3 months, we didn't speak. He was traveling overseas with Chloe, and I was working myself to the bone. 4 part-time jobs a day, sleeping only 4 hours a night just to pay him back. I knew he didn't need the money. The spare change slipping through his fingers could support my family for years. But to me, that money was a nightmare. I had dreams where he screamed at me, called me a gold digger. I kept comforting myself, kept reassuring my parents. I've liked him for a long time. He's good to me. He's never treated me badly. Leo's eyes were so red they looked raw, as if the snowstorm outside had blinded him. It took him a moment to realize what he had just heard. His body started shaking. He collapsed in despair. No, please don't say anymore. I never meant to. I didn't know you were there. I saw his hand shaking as he held the velvet ring box. I gently closed the lid. That thing I had once dreamed about, wanted more than anything in the world, meant nothing to me now. You said you wanted to marry me. I waited so long for those words. All these years I was waiting for you to turn around and see me, waiting for you to truly love me. But I forgot. This was all just a game to you, to all of you. I was never one of the real players, just a substitute piece. Then I said, I don't need you. I never did. Let's just end this cleanly. He stood frozen, as pale as paper, unable to speak. He clung to my hand, unwilling to let go, tears falling one by one onto my palm. He had so much to say, yet all of it was caught in his throat. Not a single word came out. I hesitated for a second, then slowly, finger by finger, I pried his hand off mine, pushed him away, and turned to go back inside. Leo stayed rooted where he was, overwhelmed and broken. He crouched down, covered his face, and sobbed uncontrollably into the cold night air. On the morning of New Year's Day, I had just crawled out from under the blankets when I saw him sitting on the couch, wrapped in a thick quilt, drinking hot water. His lips were pale, his face ashen, his body trembling uncontrollably. My mom pulled me into the kitchen and whispered, I ran into him this morning while taking out the trash. He was downstairs all night, swaying like he might collapse. I was scared he'd pass out in front of the building, so I brought him inside. After all, he did help save your father's life once. When Leo saw me, he stood up awkwardly, clearly unsure of what to do. His eyes turned red instantly. Happy New Year, Maya, he said, his voice soft and unsure. I nodded perfunctorily. Happy New Year. If you're feeling better, please leave. I don't want to see you again. You're really this heartless? He asked, desperate, clutching my wrist tightly. When I didn't respond, he continued in a hoarse voice. I don't love Chloe anymore. His voice was tight with tension. I'm already in love with you, he said, but I never wanted to be anyone's backup. I had hesitated so many times before, looked up hoping someone would finally see me, but no one ever did. The truth was, I didn't love him anymore. When I didn't respond, he asked cautiously, almost like he couldn't bear to hear the answer. Leo had spent the whole night downstairs, thinking, waiting. If it were anyone else, maybe he would have broken down completely. But in his heart, he still believed I was the kind of girl with pride, someone who had simply bowed her head and bent her back for love. He was wrong. I don't love you, my answer was firm, and this life is only so long and I'd already fallen once. I wasn't going to throw myself in again just to end up shattered. I had already lost my dignity. What right did I have to talk about love? That day, Leo left in disappointment. After that, I never saw him again. When the new year ended, I was transferred to the company's overseas branch for training. My days were busy and fulfilling. Occasionally, I would catch glimpses of Leo from afar. He always kept his distance, never approaching. At 30, my mother had grown older. She missed me and always hoped I'd come home more often, so I applied to be transferred back. That way, I could work and take care of her at the same time. She kept hoping I'd find someone, gently encouraging me to go on blind dates. I brushed her off, saying my career wasn't stable yet. Eventually, I was promoted to general manager, and during a business negotiation with another large corporation, I saw Leo again. He wasn't the reckless young man from my 20s anymore. He had grown up, matured. His family's business was thriving. Whenever we ran into each other, Leo would try to bring up the past, but the past had nothing to do with me anymore. I've let it go, I told him plainly. He just nodded, his face falling. Okay. At 35, I met my husband. He treated me well, with surprises every day and eyes full of nothing but me. The night before our wedding, I visited my father's grave alone. I poured his favorite wine. Dad, I said softly, I'm getting married tomorrow. It's not to the boy I once loved when I was young. I met him at work. He and his family are very kind to Mom and me. I just wanted to have a little chat with you. Next time, I'll bring him here to meet you." The wind rustled the leaves in the trees above me, and it felt like he was answering me back. On my wedding day, I spotted Leo in the crowd. He was crying so hard he could barely breathe, looking a bit dazed, a bit lost. But my life had already moved on. The one I loved was now separated from me by mountains and mountains and seas cannot be crossed. From Leo's perspective, and it was true. I first got together with Maya because of a silly college party game. Everyone at the mixer had been all over me except for her. She sat quietly in the corner, like she didn't care at all, and that's what made her stand out. That's why I picked her. I didn't expect that just hearing the word girlfriend would make her ears turn bright red. It was cute. I couldn't help but tease her. Later, I learned she was brilliant, not just a scholarship winner every year, but also the student council president. She had a light in her that drew people in. I was always a selfish, careless guy, but I still stayed with her for 8 years. I never realized how much she had become a part of my life until it was too late. I always thought I had more time, that my world shouldn't be limited to just one person. Then she said she didn't love me anymore. I smoked all night at the airport and rushed back to see her. When I saw her again, a rage exploded inside me. I grabbed her, pulled at her clothes. She cried, her eyes swollen, red and puffy. She looked terrible, but my heart softened instantly. I shouldn't have treated her that way. She told me I had no right to hurt her just because she once loved me. But then Chloe called, saying someone was harassing her. I was worried, so I left, telling Maya I'd explain everything when I got back. She asked me to stay. I didn't turn around, but I forgot that disappointment doesn't come all at once. It builds up, piece by piece. By then, there really was no more us. After another failed conversation, I walked away bitterly. I told myself, Maya loves me so much, she'll come back eventually. But she never lowered her pride again. At another class reunion, someone brought up the quiet, studious girl from our class, and only then did it truly hit me. We had known each other far longer than I remembered. Someone said Maya had liked me even back then, that in her eyes, besides school, there was only me. I did the math, 11 years of her youth and all of it she had given to me. Later, when my mom handed me back the bank card with the money Maya had repaid, I couldn't shake the guilt in my chest. I regretted everything. On New Year's Eve, I went to find her. I told her I truly wanted to marry her. I had even bought a large diamond ring, ready to propose. But she looked at me and said softly, "This isn't what I want anymore." That was when I realized her eyes no longer held any love for me. She told me all about the past, about everything she'd been through, and as I listened, every word felt like another shard of ice embedding itself in my skin. I couldn't even speak through the tears. I stood outside her place all night, and in the morning her mother found me and let me in. I begged her, "Is there really no chance left for us?" She just said, "There isn't." As I was leaving, I overheard her speaking to her mom. "Loving someone for too long only adds up to disappointment," she said. "I'm human too. I have dignity. I can't give that up just to marry him." On New Year's Day, I sat in my car outside her building, watching the light in her window flicker from dark to bright and back to dark again. After she broke up with me, I drifted through life aimlessly until I finally understood how I felt. I ended my engagement with Chloe. We were too alike, two people with strong tempers, never truly compatible. Later, she found someone else, someone from her world who treated her well. She was happy, deeply loved. For a long time after that, I regretted taking Maya's love for granted. I had been greedy, trying to hold on to her while still chasing the rush of a first love. As I got older, the people around me began getting married. They encouraged me to start over, to open my heart again, but all I could think was, how did she survive those 11 years? Round and round we went, and somehow, I ended up the last person in our circle still alone. Later, she went abroad. I often adjusted my work schedule just to fly out and see her, to watch from afar without ever disturbing her. I didn't dare. I was the one who had hurt her. All I could do now was look at her from a distance. At 30, Maya was promoted. She rose from department head to general manager. No one dared to mock her as a poor girl anymore. They addressed her with respect. In negotiations, she was sharp and decisive, earning her name and her place. One day, we crossed paths at a business meeting. She stood in front of me in a sleek coat, poised and confident, and my heart fell into chaos. I invited her to lunch. She didn't decline, but during our conversation, she was calm, distant, completely free of the past. She didn't avoid talking about what had happened between us. She just said, "What's missed is missed. The past can't be chased." I stared at her, stunned. It hit me all at once. Maya had become even more beautiful. At 35, she got married. It had taken her 11 years to love me and another 8 to heal. The only one still trapped in the past was me. I asked someone to send her a wedding gift, a red envelope with a large sum of money. I didn't sign it. I also found her mother and slipped her a card with even more. Tears filled my eyes. "Auntie," I said, "she gave me the best years of her youth. It shouldn't be wasted. Just think of me as her older brother, giving her away today. This is her dowry." Her mother kept trying to return it, but I ran. I didn't have the guts to stay. Selfishly, I thought, I've met her parents. I've given this money. Maybe in some twisted way, I have married her too. She stood on that stage in a stunning wedding gown, veiled in white, radiant and dazzling. I finally understood what people meant when they said loving someone is like tending to a flower. Maya had bloomed more beautifully than she had ever been. I watched her, tears spilling down my face. When they exchanged rings and kissed, I sat in the audience thinking, if only those things hadn't happened, maybe Maya would have married me. Maybe by now, we'd have a pair of adorable kids running around calling me daddy. I wanted so badly to run on stage, to stop the wedding, to beg her to love me again no matter how late it was. But I had already lost the girl who once loved me with all her heart. I didn't even dare watch her walk over with her husband to toast the guests. I fled in shame. Tears streamed down my face. I had truly, completely lost Maya, the woman who once loved me to her very core. In this life, I lost the one person who loved me most.